Well, I grew up here in the Midwest. I was born in Fort Wayne, and but really the only time I lived out of town was when I was down at IU in Bloomington. So, from the environmental perspective, this is about all I know: farming community and stuff like that. Well, I remember all that stuff. Chernobyl, which was the power plant in the Soviet Union at that time, or which was Ukraine. And then also there's a 3 Mile Island, which was in Pennsylvania. And I didn't know enough about it really. I mean, the press and everything made it very scary. They even made a movie called The China Syndrome with Jane Fonda. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas, and they went around saying like it's the end of the world. Um, but I think they pretty much got all that stuff under control. I haven't heard of anything really in maybe 30 years, if anything of significance. So we have to have energy. It's kind of ironic. They don't want to burn fossil fuels. So it's really about our only other alternative. So I mean, it didn't petrify me, but it did make you think as a young person because I wasn't well, not a lot older than you, but about the same. DDT, um, that really started World War II, after World War II, and I was born in 1950, and Um, it was mainly to control mosquitoes and stuff like that. I, I guess the reason they claimed that DDT affected the thickness of eagles' eggs and stuff like that, and eventually they got it banned. Some lady, I can't remember her name. I think her last name was Connor. Wrote a book, and it was a big scare and how horrible it was. But by the same token, I think that it's also the banning of it, in my opinion, has killed hundreds of millions of people because, especially in Africa, because it's a great controller of malaria from everything I've read on it, and it's almost. I'm not sure that they shouldn't have did what they did, but you know, it is what it is. So, well, main thing that I've seen them do in Fort Wayne area is the rivers. They're still working on that. They're trying to make the rivers accessible to the public. They've cut down a lot of the brush from along the rivers. They, I don't know, before you were around here, they spent $7-8 million just over here in the Maumee. It's only from my house right here where I'm at, just less than a mile. Dredged everything out, spent millions of stuff, and spent millions of dollars, and to control the flooding in downtown Fort Wayne. To get it, do you know where the Headwaters Park is down there? Well, that's where it's supposed to flood. When we have riverbanks flood, it doesn't flood there. And we spent millions and millions of dollars to do this. And so now it floods over here in the lakeside and floods other farmers down a town called River Haven, which is by New Haven. That floods and those people suffer. So I'm not sure how that works. The Army Corps of Engineers came in and did all this stuff, but it didn't work the way they wanted it to work. So I'm just not sure. Again, for one time back in the '70s, Fort Wayne flooded. Literally, the city flooded. They did the national news. We only had 3 TV stations then. CBS News was done from a rowboat on Main Street, kind of down there by where Paula's is, and so they've tried to control the flooding, and that's the main thing I see as far as environment. I don't think there's any question about it. Recycling, they used to recycle always in the East Coast when I would travel, and it's fairly new really in Fort Wayne in this area, Midwest. But recycling of things, the attitude of I knew when I grew up, Billy, you didn't think anything about just like if you had a piece of paper or something, you just throw it out the window when you went somewhere. You just did it. Everybody did it. You didn't think a thing about it. So I think the constant, and I'm for all that. I mean, it's crazy. Recycling of tires. You just used to dump all this in trash. Oil from your car, whatever. You just used to throw it away. And those are definitely an improvement in the environment, and it has to be done. So again, the improvements. I can remember when I was at IU in the early '70s, the power plants that gave us energy over the entire university was real soft coal, and I had a kind of a white car my senior year. You were allowed to drive down there not until you were a senior, and it just the carbon just embedded into my car. It was crazy, and I could taste it and all that kind of stuff. So from that kind of an interaction, I mean, it affected pretty much everything in that community. Around here, not so much. I mean, we have more pollution control things on cars and automobiles, and that helps the air here. So as far as just that interaction, that would be what I note things that I've noticed.